absolutely delighted, over the moon. I don't know how to describe it. Welcome along, Ari Vatanen.
No, come on. I'm so, how should I say? I'm touched that you take it so seriously. I'm not worth it.
Oh, without a doubt. So, Ari, Donegal was one of your first adventures whenever you landed in the UK. Yourself and Dave Richards, I think it was a Mini you just jumped into in London and headed off to Donegal. How did that come about?
That's a very good question. Maybe you should ring DR and find out. He had his, what I do remember, then slightly later we came back from Scotland having done the Scottish rally.
Okay.
But no, Scottish rally was before Donegal, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. It normally was.
It was before. Yeah. Anyway, I remember when we came down from Scottish rally back to south of England, but how did we come to Donegal rally? That's what I physically do not remember, but I'm sure David must have organized it, because I did, a few months earlier, in May, in fact, I did the Welsh rally with John Thomas, and who really got me coming to the UK. He got 300 quid sponsorship, and at the strength of that massive 300 quid funding, I put my car on a battered Opel Ascona on a boat and came to the UK, and then that Welsh rally led to the involvement of Tony Fall, who was running dealer Opel team at that time.
Okay.
And so we went to the Scottish rally, and then David got involved because he knew Tony Fall, and it must have been then as a result of that that we came to, I suppose, to train me further to come to Donegal. And of course, for me, it was just one big adventure, just incredible. I mean, first of all, to come to the UK, and then that one thing actually led to something else, because normally when you do a big jump into an unknown, I mean, it's that's it. You make one jump, and that's it. It actually led to this these other events, and all I remember from that event was that it was a right and drive car. It was a right and drive car, and it is true that it was the local dealer, Opel dealer. I think he gave the private car of his wife as a recce car, and it is very true that with the local mechanic, I suppose it was a mechanic who was with me in the evening. I don't know why we went out. David was doing his space notes or whatever, and so we just I missed the junction. I went past it, and I thought, as you would do on a gravel, I mean, you reverse flat out backwards, you flip the steering wheel, and you press the brake, and the front would come around very nicely.
Yes.
No, but it didn't. We rolled it.
Oh no!
On the top. And it did a lot of damage. I mean, it became like a tent, like a V-shaped tent. Then, so I don't think my shares were very high. And I remember from that we had some, because you are young and you are, it was like a kind of a dream thing. I had to touch myself, but is this all happening to me? And I remember we had some, we took part in some parties, and it was all big, jump into deep end, not just driving wise, but life wise. Young man discovering the world, and I had to really ask myself, is it really happening to me? Really very, 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 very fond memories indeed.
Brilliant. And you were going reasonably well. You had a few wee knocks and scrapes, but you went out then, I think it was on the Sunday, and I think you just hit, as we were talking about here, you hit a ditch, and I think you were asked afterwards how it went, and you were trying to find the English word for hit or something, and you said demolish, and Dave Richards says, yes, we demolish many things here.
Exactly, that's what I remember. That in the interview section. We don't hit things, we demolish them.
That was
it very much turned out to be true in my career later on. And I remember this one incident not incident, just anecdote on a recce. Ahin Warmbold was in a sort of whitish, greenish BMW.
Yes.
He was a good driver, particularly on tarmac, Ahin Warmbold. And John Davenport was his co-driver. And during the recce, they came the other way and they stopped. And of course, I was impressed that they stopped. And of course, I was struggling a bit with my English. And since I was not used to make bass notes of any kind, really, let alone English notes with David. So John Davenport or Ahim asked me that, have you worked out your English notes? He used this, I remember this, and I didn't really know what it means, work out. Have you worked out your English bass notes? And I said, of course, when you don't understand it, you just say, yes, you're nodding your head. Oh, yes. Very far from the truth. And honestly, did we finish that rally?
No, I don't think so, no.
No, I don't even.
No, I don't
then
think
of
so.
the rally itself, I don't remember a lot. No. I still remember this one nice girl I met during that rally. I mean, I do remember the little. I mean, I think did we go out for one night or something like that? Yes. I mean, I might have even been holding her hand. I can't remember. Even quick kiss, you know, if I remember correctly. But anyway, so it was a young man out and with in the wonderland with my big eyes and appreciating every single second.
Yes, brilliant. And then you come back in 1978. Ford were looking to develop the Mark II then because it was getting competitive in gravel, but they hadn't quite unlocked it on tar. So yourself and Peter Bryant were sent over along with
now late Peter
Bryant. Another gentleman of the sport, and Dave Sutton, another late great man as well.
Exactly.
So what's your memories of 78? You know, we all talk about Black Beauty. That's a car that stirs so many emotions here in Ireland.
No, yes, it really. I mean, it comes up this Black Beauty word so often. No, 78. I remember it. I remember it a lot better because I don't remember if he came to develop that car. But in those days, it was not unusual to do. David Sutton say, "Oh, Ari, I found some money. Let's go there. Let's go to Madeira. Let's go to the Signal Rally in Spain. Let's go to Canary Islands. Let's go to Donegal." It was that kind of life.
Right.
Totally. I mean, it doesn't happen anymore at all.
No.
And nearly every time I had a different co-driver because of various practical reasons.
Yes.
And we went to Cork Rally, for example, with Henry. Not Henry. Henry Lindner was with me in Madeira. Then 78. That was also 78. And we went to Cork 20. That was the Arne Hertz, who normally was with Hannu Mikkola, late Hannu Mikkola, another great driver, which is and friend who is not with us anymore. So, and then Peter Bryant came back with me, and of course I started 76 with him in Britain, and I always liked Peter a lot. He was not the typical co-driver. He was I not say that co-drivers are not intelligent, don't get me wrong, but he was very intellectual. Peter was very intellectual in his approach to life. So he had a very mature opinion on any issue in life, and I enjoyed discussing with him, and I learned a lot from him. So anyway, that particular rally, because there were even some songs were made of it, because there was this very nice girl at the reception of the hotel, and I think somebody made a poem of it or something, and there were these parties, because I think it's not a folklore story. It's true that there's like a second morning, the start was 1 hour later, just to make sure that people were more or less sober. when they started
Yes.
rally. It was a fantastic event. Of course, we did well. I was quite fast. Car was beautiful, and it all this atmosphere and really Irish atmosphere, friendly atmosphere. People, but still without any excesses. But very relaxed. People drinking but in a nice way. I have a very nice memory of that event. Very nice indeed.
And the people of Donegal are very passionate about the welcome they give to visitors and their rallying too. So like it's a great combination.
No, absolutely. No, it is. I've always felt that the Finns and Irish, we have a lot in common. Small countries next to a big country, and anyway that sincere, very without sincerity in life you can't get very far. When you have a sincere relationships, they are honest and they're enjoyable and very rewarding, and that is a very fond memories of my rallies. And I did I did Ulster Rally, then I think about all on the island as a whole, and of course Circuit of Ireland. I had such a privilege to do that several times, and then this Cork 20, and of course to got to know the the guy who was driving Colin, what was his name? Who was driving the Stratos.
Oh, Billy Coleman.
Exactly, and of course, but did Billy drive? Did you say Billy?
Billy no. Coleman drove the Stratos.
Of course, Billy. But did he also drive? But then I had another driver in my mind.
Curly.
Yeah, exactly. And then and of course Billy became a friend, and then of course Bertie, the late Bertie Fisher, and at that time I was already flying helicopters myself, so of course I was very, very impacted by that tragic accident of Bertie Fisher, because I had met him. I met him on a previous RAC rally. Okay. And he came here. I was with David Richardson in David's helicopter.
Yes.
And Bertie came in his helicopter, and I didn't know that he flies helicopters. So of course we just talk about helicopters. And next time I hear is this terrible accident of him. And so there are many. Life is more than just a rally. Yes. Life is more about relation. Of sincere relationships and people whose destiny has touched you, and that's what is that you're not cynical in life, and you meet every single person the same way as you're equal to yourself, and that's what and of course it was an early part of my career, so every rally was even later on. Rallying was never a job for me. It was life. It was adventure. I always was wondering, is this really that this is happening to me? What have I done to deserve this? Yes. Really.
And you talk about the way that rallying has shaped you. Like the Mark II Escort in Ireland, and in particular Donegal, like there could be 170, 180 cars starting Donegal. There could be 70 of them still a Mark II Escort.
Incredible.
And have you asked all them guys? I would say easily 50% of them will say Ari Vatanen is the reason I'm driving this car. How does that make you feel whenever you hear something like that?
No, of course, it feels very good. Obviously, it feels that without what have I done? I haven't. I'm not a hero in a sense like Alexei Navalny in Russia is fighting against Putin and trying to get some basic human rights for people and risking his own life. That kind of people are heroes. I was just running after my dreams. That's all. And if I then, without realizing it, and because I never asked any questions myself. I did not ask if this doable or not doable. I just went for it. And of course, that was manifested in my driving style. Even tarmac, I was not clean. I went sideways on the tarmac. And of course, people love it.
Yes.
People love it. And when you leave, when you go sideways on tarmac and you leave black tire marks, I mean, people love it.
Yes.
And they realize that you are giving all. You are giving all what you have got.
Yes.
And then that escort really was fitted. It was like a glove in my hand. That's how I felt. And then if you, without realizing, if you inspire other people, I mean, to do the same, I mean, what's better? It's an honor. It's an honor. It's an honor. It's an honor that you have managed to inspire some other people. I think then it's fantastic.
Yes. Well, Ari, that's really lovely words, and I really appreciate you taking the time to join us. And we'll hope to see you again soon. Of all COVID, things being equal next year, we hope to get back on the stages. And who knows, we might invite you over then.
Well, I mean, it's long overdue. It's long overdue, but let's hope.
Yes.
Well, if I remain as young in my head as I'm today, so and God willing, stay in a good health, so we can do still lots of things.
Yes. Now, I'm absolutely delighted to welcome along Donall Barrett. Donall, you're very welcome along.
Thanks very much, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
And no bother at all. It was a pleasure. So, growing up in Donegal, I suppose, was the rally always something that was on your radar growing up?
Well, I think any young fella in Donegal, the rally, kids know about the rally. And I suppose I came from a house, Kevin, that there was no rallying. But the rally across, we lived in the Garrigard stage. I don't know if you know where the famous crossroads is, in the Garrigard stage, the little triangle, and our house looked down on that. So, so I used to go down and watch the rally all the time, and I was neighbours a couple of fields away of a family called the Friels, and Joe Friel was a navigator. Would have sat on with Eamon Harvey back in the day, and sat on with many people after that. And the lads were mad into cars, and I used to be up about their house all the time. And I suppose that's when I first started getting into it.
Yes, you caught the bug from them.
Well, I don't know if I caught the. I like going watching it all the time anyway. Yes. Something to look forward to every June, Kevin.
So then you teamed up with the one and only Manus Kelly. Did it start out that you were in the driving seat and Manus was the co-driver? Am I right in thinking?
I suppose I started Paul Harris. I was in London, and there was a few motorsport enthusiasts over there, and I managed to help Paul gather a few pound, and I went to Clare in 2005. We went to Clare. Paul, as a thank you, just in the old two-door Impreza, if you remember it.
Oh, yeah, the yellow one, yep.
Yeah, and it was a funny rally in that there were one stage, and then there was service, and then you're back out again. And we, like a four right in, there was a rock had fallen down. We hit the rock and rolled down the road and wrecked the two-door Impreza. So poor Paul was taking me out for a spin to thank me for gathering a few pound, and that ended up happening. And then in 2006, the harvest, we went out in the Corolla. It was Donnelly's first time in the 12B, if you remember.
Oh, yeah. The stages up around Atlantic Drive and...
Fannet and Glen, Atlantic Drive, great stages. And we finished second to Eugene Donnelly. So that was the start of it. And then, and then I started sitting on Manus then. Well, actually, you're right. Manus had the twin cam, and he was always on to me. Just Bar, come on, we'll get a run on this show. And I went up to Ahadui one Christmas, along with himself and Jimmy Doherty and a few lads. And then we went and did a rally down in the ALMC. And he sat on, and then we went up and did a rally in what do you call that outside Newry, the mountain?
Sleeve Gullion.
Yeah, did that, and then we went to Fermanagh and did a wee rally, and I crashed the twin cam, and we quickly realised then. I got an Evo then after that, thinking I was going to do a bit of rallying, and we went and did a bit of testing, but I quickly realised that I'd be better. No matter how good it was, at calling notes, he'd be better driving than me calling notes. And that's how it started,
And like, what a partnership it turned out to be. Like, we're concentrating Donegal's story. Like, there was 2007 to 2015 and various Mark IIs. Like, some battles throughout the years.
Sure, great battles. That whole national, sure, it's unbelievable and still unbelievable. And I think, if the truth be told, Manus's heart still belonged a lot, and that even after winning the international. And sure, with many's a battle to it. Sure, it was great. We never got across the finishing line, unfortunately, until 2015 after the accident in 14. And I don't know. I think Kevin Manus was an unbelievable driver, but by his own admission later in his rally career, he never put the effort into it in terms of preparation. Like I remember one year Gary McPhillips and Paul Sheridan beat us. The year we crashed out, Gary and Paul actually stayed with me in my house, and we're competing against each other. And when you seen the prep there, but then you're watching in cars and doing all that stuff. That Manus was that laid back. He never bothered doing that. And then later in life, he started doing that. He got David McGinley involved, and started to focus on that psychological side of things to really prepare. And sure, once he prepared, his talent then shone through. That's all that was missing early in his career.
Yeah, because it was such a natural talent. That all that sort of side issue didn't really click to him until I suppose until he really needed it.
And when he realised that he needed to do that everybody else was doing it, and then I suppose Manus, when we sold the car, the black car or the yellow car that became a black car, and then we're hiring cars, and sure, he'd go out and he wouldn't even have driven the car a wee bit of a test, and then go out and be unbelievably competitive, like one rally a year. Sure, it showed the talent that he had really.
You were competing against the likes of Gary McPhillips and Declan Boyle and these guys who were doing maybe 7-8 events leading up to Donegal. To step
they're very talented drivers, and throw Daniel McKenna into the mix. Daniel, if Daniel had ever got into a world car, God knows what he could have achieved. He's an unbelievable driver.
Yeah.
So it was very, very competitive. But you have loads of other lads like Wesley Patterson and Martin McGee and Damien Galler and Brian Brogan and all those lads. Like sure, it was.
It's a who's who, really, isn't it? Yep. Like that was always the thing, and still is with the National Rally. It wasn't the top 5 or 6 you were looking at. It was the top 15, 20 drivers that.
Like Frank Kelly and Adrian Hetherington and all them boys. Sure, would be very, very, very fast.
I think David Bogie.
Great camaraderie and great crack.
Yeah, it always seemed to be that friendship there, because I've spoke to other guys, and that if you had a problem on the stages, at the end of the stage, there'd be the first boy with a tow rope or like a wheel race to help you change the wheels or whatever. They would take every second off you when the clock's ticking. But when the clock stops ticking, then it's it's the friendship that counted, wasn't it?
Yeah. A great camaraderie altogether.
Yeah, and it's such a positive side to the sport. So you finally got the donkey off the back. It's not probably the right expression, but you won the national rally then in 2015. It all come together.
Off the back with that terrible accident in 14 in Garton, and poor Rodney Wilton's good car was wrecked in that one, and that was that was a worse accident than Manus actually died in. It was a crazy accident at high speed and through trees, and we were very lucky, and Manus took that quite bad at the time. We both did, but Manus took it quite bad and struggled with it for a while, and what could have happened, and then we said we'll go back and we hired whose car? Tom. What his name's gone for me.
Tom Flaherty, isn't it? Flaherty.
Tom Flaherty. Sorry, Tom Flaherty in Galway, and we went down to Munster and water running down the road, and I think he was 3rd or 4th fastest in the first stage. Two WRCs. I think we were faster than Niall McGuire and maybe another WRC in it, and then we had mechanical failure on the 3rd or 4th stage, and then into Donegal. Straight into Donegal then, and Donegal. Declan Galler was leading, and then he rolled on the Friday, and then was between ourselves and Gary on the Saturday morning. And the first stage was actually my home stage in Gary Gort, and Gary actually went down the road about a mile, and we could actually see him rolling. And himself and Paul were at the rally, and then we had maybe a 20-some second lead on Brian Brogan then, and we had to push on then. So I suppose maybe all the luck that we didn't have in the years previous to that, we probably had a good bit of luck in that year then.
And that's a different kind of pressure then, obviously trying to maintain a lead rather than trying to be fighting for every second. I suppose it's trying to get that pace that you're not, completely on the limit, to judging it that you're fast enough to stay ahead but not taking big risks, I suppose.
Well, I suppose in the Escort that year, we had to go at 9.9 tenths just to stay ahead. There was no coming back there, and that one really at all. And we had never been in that position before, really, apart from 20 forget what year Declan and Brian Boyle beat us in Atlantic Drive.
Yeah.
We were leading going into the last loop in that by 4 seconds, 12 was it? And that's the first time we'd been in that position. So no, it was great. Sure, like that was a dream come true for us, Kevin. Like sure,
yes.
We tried, and then to actually achieve it was unbelievable.
So then that put in motion then the big plan for 2016 to give the overall rally the world. Was it like a crazy dream, or was it something that you thought they were going to make this happen?
Yeah, I suppose it was a dream. I remember sitting outside my house in Dublin, coming home from work one evening, and chatting to Kelly, and saying, "Geez, why don't we go and see if we get a price anyway?" And Cahill Brown, who used to look after us, who was brilliant to us in the escort days, he rang Melvin, and from talking to Melvin afterwards, like Melvin wasn't giving out. That was his own 12B, and he wasn't giving it out too much. I think he had given it to Alan Ring, who maybe had an accent in it, and he wasn't too fond of giving it out too much. And and then he came back, and like it was a lot of money, Kevin, to go and have to try and gather. But we were fortunate we had a very good team that helped us go and gather it and put in money ourselves, and away we went. Yeah, Carlo.
What way to start? I think you were fastest on the first stage. I think shakedown was a bit of a nightmare, but right into the first stage and
the shakedown was funny in that Ted O'Shaughnessy, you probably know him. Ted is a great rally man. Ted organised a wee bit of a lane for us to go up and down, and it was raining, and sure we were going up and down it, and sure he didn't know he was trying to left foot brake and never left foot braked in his life, and he told the story afterwards that he met James Cullen in the hotel that night, and he was a bit down himself, and James Cullen told him just go out and drive her like an escort, Manus, and that's what he did, and we're fastest in the first stage. We actually had a bit of a stall at the start of the first stage, and then he went on and he was fastest in it, and thankfully we went on and won the rally. But I remember the corners were coming quite a lot quicker when you kind of call notes and the hose in the escort.
So going into Donegal, did you feel you just had a chance, or what way? No, what was the
we had a chance, Kevin. I suppose we'd gone to Carlo, and that was good. Like Roy White and Niall McGowan, all the top national boys were there, and it's another level up because the main people you're against was Gary, who was a multiple champion, and Donna, albeit hadn't won it, but was very, very fast, and Declan Boyle, who'd won it. So you're going up against those, and you're hoping that you're competitive. You didn't know, but you're hoping that you're competitive. And then after the first loop, we were very competitive, and then we didn't have a great time in Letter League the second time over it, and we didn't. I think maybe psychologically just wanted to get Friday through in that last short stage up in Convoy. They took a few seconds out of us, but I think we were 11 seconds or something. That's the lead there, something like that, 11 or 15. Then we went to Knockalla on the Saturday morning, and Donna was either Declan or Donna was first. I think maybe Declan was maybe a second ahead of us. We were second. I think we were a second ahead of Donna, something like that. So that was a real test. Obviously, Gary had engine failure after the first stage that year, unfortunately. And then I remember going into Gary Gord, and I know you always say, "Oh, geez, we went off and we're having some push before we went off." You always hear that, but having watched Incar after that, our time would have been very, very good if we'd have managed to get to the end of it. But unfortunately, we broke a bit late going up into a left. There was a couple of bad accidents. Brendan McDade had a bad accident and had a tree in that same corner that year. And but anyway, we went into the field and managed to get out of it, thankfully.
And everybody that was talked about around the service area. Oh, sure, Kelly would be better sticking in the trailer now at this stage. He's not going to win now. But determined the two boys were out is one again.
I will sure. Listen, you're always going to go out again, Kevin. There's no damage to the car, and we're always going to go out again. I suppose so many people had put so much effort into it. The entire team we had, all our sponsors, ourselves. You weren't. You felt you were letting them down, so we went out at it again. And I remember, we're trying to set ourselves a target. And Seamus Leonard at that time, I think we dropped down to 8th or 9th, and Seamus was maybe 5th or something like that. And I was just trying to get Manus G'd up again. So we're in the trailer and said, right, we'll set ourselves a target now, trying to get to Seamus Leonard before the end of the rally. And because at that stage, Donna and Declan were in a great battle and they were miles ahead. But then obviously on the Saturday afternoon, They both went out with mechanical failure, and I think the Saturday afternoon, were we four fastest stages times, and maybe Declan might have been fastest,
and one of them,
and then all of a sudden, I think it was 34 seconds on the Saturday night in the rain forecast, and Manus had never driven the car in the wet before,
right?
And so I suppose that Saturday night, then you're looking at it and thinking, Jesus, we could have a chance here, because there's a lot of R5 cars in front of us, and Glen would suit us okay. Atlantic Drive would suit the R5 car better, and Fanad obviously would suit us. So
yes,
we went out to Glen on that morning, and both very nervous, but we had a good time, and had an okay time in Atlantic Drive, and then had a brilliant time in Fanad, and what were we 5 seconds or 6 seconds maybe behind Sam or Keith then, and Glen was cancelled on us, unfortunately, and then we went into Atlantic Drive, and Atlantic Drive was treacherous, shiny tar and wet, and we were on a harder compound, and went into Fanad then, thankfully, and
Keith had opened up the gap to practically 10
9.3 seconds, I think, 9.3 seconds going into Fanad, and Kelly always told the story that he said to me, I said, what are we doing? And he said, Barrett, we're going for gold. So thankfully we got the gold.
Yes. And was that, was there an atmosphere in the car that this was it? We're going for it here, really. This is our one opportunity, possibly.
No, it was, and it's funny, Kevin. At the end of that stage, I don't know if you ever watched the in-car, but I started doing a lot of cursing at the end of it, because we came down into, and I called what happened was it was raining, and the last two pages stuck together, and I turned over 2 pages instead of one, two, the last 3, and I called the wrong note and called maybe a 3 left instead of a 5 left, and we nearly went off the road, but we managed to get around the corner anyway, and won the rally by half a second. So unbelievable. The scenes in Fanad that day were Manus's family and friends, and my friends, and loads of real rally people there that from Donegal that were delighted for us, and unbelievable things, and seeing things that just last with you forever. I
think there was a lift that and carried the car back to Letterkenny for you that day.
Great.
And to come back into Letterkenny, the band were playing the tune for you guys, to take you over the rump. It was such an unbelievable atmosphere there in Letterkenny that Sunday afternoon.
And I suppose from our own personal point of view, that time together in the car, going from Fanad up to Letterkenny to try and take it in, and I remember just looking over each other, maybe loads of times, just starting to laugh, the fact we won the Donegal Rally, and I'm saying, it's hard to believe, Barrett, hard to believe, and I think he had a brother in America. Was it Leon or Tiernan? One of them, I'm ringing him, and unbelievable.
Yeah, brilliant. So then, you had to go back to defend the title. That was then. So back the 12B come again then for the following year, because there was always this kind of I don't know what ever affected Manus. There was always this kind of chat was, I was lucky last year,
well, there was, Kevin, and and sure, that's the reality. Manus never spoke about openly, but deep down, he never got that until they won the second one, the third one. He didn't get the credit for the first one. It was seen as a lucky one. Whereas, I would have felt, and I always said that, yes, we were lucky. Obviously, we went into a field and we came back in at Donna and Declan. But I don't think he got the credit that we were on the pace from day one, only a second time in the car, and also Keith Cronin, was at that time, was a 2-time BRC champion,
2 or 3-time champion,
yes, he was in an R5 car, so I don't think he got the credit, and you would hear different rumblings about different things. I remember I went to the Harvest. I actually, all my dreams had come true at that stage, and I was under pressure in Dublin, work and family, so I actually said, listen, that's it for me. I'm happy. I'm out of here. And Gareth Doherty, a good friend of ours, and a previous navigator with Manus, when he won the Class 11, the Twin Cam, him and Damien McCauley were different navigators from them. But Gareth sat in, and I remember going down to the Harvest. It was in Killybegs, and standing at the stage, and Manus and Gareth went past, and there's 3 boys standing there, and they didn't know who I was, and I was standing behind them, and Manus went past, and he was second. He's really second that rally. He was third, and one of the boys said, "Geez, he's not going as well today." And one of the boys said, "Actually, that was only a lucky one," you know. And I remember deep down, I didn't say nothing, but deep down I was thinking, like, you know, such a thing to say. First of all, like a begrudging thing to say, and you know, gives a man a bit of credit. But anyway, so no, I would say deep down, deep down,
you wanted to prove a point,
prove a point,
yeah. And like, you know, Donald was on fire that year. Like, I think it was the first 10 stages he was fastest, but even at that, you know, there was only 21 seconds, I think, between
21 seconds ahead of us. It was an unbelievable battle that year. You know, funny, I was only talking to Don earlier on today about something else. You know, great Donald and Connor, great competitors. You know, and you know, if any man deserves to win a Donegal, it's Donna. You know, he's won everything else, and you know, that year, you know, unbelievable, won the first 10, but he was only 21 seconds ahead, which was a lot. But I remember being in the camper van or the lorry and service in St. Kelly, it's only half time, you know, at that stage. And we're heading into Garton, you know, which obviously is always Manus's best stage because it's his home stage. And we did Ballyar first, Karen Hill, and took maybe 6 of them. I think Donna had some problem, tires overheating or something. And
there's something there.
6 or 8 or something we took off them. And then went into Garton and maybe 4 off them. And then went to Karen Hill, and I think he beat us by 0.1 of a second in Karen Hill.
There was nothing known,
And then we went to Garton, had an unbelievable cut, and took 3.7 or 4 or something out of him to leave it tight then for the Sunday morning.
And then the rain come down again.
Well, you know, Manus always spoke about the team, Kevin, and you know, we were lucky to have an unbelievable team, and Paul Harrison, Seamus McGettigan, had a lot of weather crews out and lots of friends in different parts of the stages. And, you know, we knew Fanad. We knew Fanad was the longest stage. And that, you know, if we got the territory, we thought at that time if we get the, the first time out, I tell you, the first time out, sure, everyone thought it was going to be reasonably dry and everyone went out in slicks. And, a shower came on in Fanad, and it was, Jesus, we never had so many moments in the States in Donegal, everyone was the same. You know, and did we take 3 out of him or 2 out of him? And then we went to Atlantic Drive and took maybe 5 or 6 out of him. And then we went to Glen and he took the 6 back out of us again.
He got back into it again then.
And then we're in the thing looking at, so we thought if we picked a soft tire for Fanad, that, you know, it's 20 kilometers that, you know, and try and preserve, and then the Atlantic Drive was a wee bit damp, but the Glen was dry, and you know, Manus was unbelievable in that Fanad stage, like you know, the best. You know, it was hard to believe really how good he was on it, and was it 16 or 17?
Something like that, yeah. It was, yeah.
We took out the Donna now, albeit Donna was on a different tire to us.
Yes.
And
the advantage is going to swing back possibly to him then for Atlantic Drive and Glen. So
and the mad thing was, Kevin, that we went to Atlantic Drive, and what was in it going to Atlantic Drive? Was there 12 seconds?
Something to your advantage.
Something like that. And Donna, different people, you know, were at the singing pub and they said he was a few seconds up on us. So let's say he crashed in the very last stage, in the very last corner. And let's say they took 2 seconds out of it, that would have been it back to 9, and we were going to Glen when our tires, you know, would have been going off in Glen, and he had the perfect tire. So if he had got around that corner, you know, it would have been some fight in Glen, you know. But fortunately for us and unfortunately for him, they didn't get around it, and the pressure that was put on Fanad, obviously he had to really take chances, and unfortunately he had to go off the road. So yeah, but it was a great battle. Like, I'd say from a spectator point of view, it was unbelievable to watch, you know.
Yeah, because it was like, it was edge of the seat stuff, really was the whole way through.
Well, it was when you're in the car.
And then Glen, you know, like probably, you know, you were probably starting to hear every crack and rattle.
Sure, Gary Jennings caught up with us and everything. So all we had to do was get through the stage, or like we went quite slow through the stage. There was a lot of going down corners where we would have been going up corner, or going down gears where we would have been going up gears before. But
yeah, but like there you were, 2-time champions. Nobody could argue that you got a soft one that time. Like it was a thrilling battle. Go down as one of them probably all-time greats as well. It's going to be up there as one of the magic Donegals throughout the years.
Yeah, no, it was definitely. It was an unbelievable to be part of it, Kevin. Unbelievable to be part of it.
Yeah, and didn't you go out for a meal and all on Saturday night together? Like it showed, that this battle was on, that you were nipping each other for every second. But the friendship there too, like it just shows you.
What happened, if you remember, unfortunately, Declan Boyle's mother-in-law died, yes. And he couldn't compete, and we went on the Saturday out to Manus's house, and Bernie made bite to eat, and we all got showers and got changed, and we went together. And Donna's car over to the wake and came back again.
Yeah. But that isn't it just lovely that every second's counting on the stages, but that the friendship and the camaraderie again is there even at that top level as well. It's a nice, nice thing to see.
We're sports people at the end of the day, and whatever sport you do, you give it everything you can, whether it's in the football field or on the stages. But you're outside of that, so you have to keep that relationship and friendship.
And then 2018, then the 3 in the row, like this has only ever been done twice before, Curly, Ballycolman, and never been done before in the same car, because the 12B was pressed back into action again. And I think there was a determination, sorry, to get the right from the get-go. Like everybody says, Brina's first stage, there's no time to maiden Brina. All you do is drive it, get through it. You just went out there and blitzed everybody. I think it was over 7 seconds.
Yeah. We're lucky that year in that Apple Green had come on board with sponsorship, and it allowed us to go and do Killarney as a warm-up for it. And Killarney was great because it's a 2-day rally, and the first day you're getting back into it, and then the next, you're really getting on, and then you're able to go the next day again. And we're fortunate to win Killarney. And set us up really well because it's in May Bank holiday, obviously, so it's only 6 weeks before Donegal, so it puts you in a great place, And went out to Brina, and my God, it was some whirl over Brina in the wet, water run down the road, and 7 seconds quicker than, I don't know, was it Donna or Gary?
I think it was Gary. I'm not just 100% sure there. Yeah.
And it's funny, then we went into the Carrick Mountain and up in the square right, and he braked slightly late, and we nearly bent the whole thing. We had to pull the handbrake, and she went up a bank, and we just about got away with it. We lost 20 or 21 seconds, but we could have been out of the rally, just as Andy, and then pushed on from then.
Aye. And Donna slid off, and Declan, I think it was half shaft or something then. And then Saturday, just after lunchtime on Saturday, Gary went on the push, and unfortunately he slid off. So then all of a sudden, then you're like over a minute ahead, and instead of like you talk about half time of the rally, like that must have been nerve-wracking to try and drive through that day and a half, to pull back and try and drive at a more conservative pace.
Well, that was a bit different to when in the Escort when we were to go at 9.9, because this time you had R5s, which are obviously in certain stages would be as quick as you, depending on the stage. If it was tight and twisty, they'd be as fast, but if it's the big wide open ones, you'd have more power, so you're able to try and manage that, and that's what we did. We just had to try and keep the same time as them, and thankfully we managed to do that.
And like to take it again, to become a member of that elite club, like these two young cubs growing up around Donegal, to have that your name in that trophy 3 times, like that's Roy the Rover stuff, isn't it? It's
which was beyond Roy the Rover stuff, really. Sure. Kevin, it's fantasy stuff, really, from where we began and where that got to for that 15, 16, 17 and 18. Sure, it was it really was stuff of dreams,
Yeah. So for 19, the decision was to go R5, and like in typical Manus fashion, like things weren't going particularly well at the start of the year. But he dug deep and kept determined and kept the focus on, and become Donegal. Things were starting to look more positive. The times were getting closer, and he was back, back in the fight again. And the big man, the big heart was getting there again.
It's a big thing for Manus to go R5, because you're like, why did he need? He had nothing to prove. You know, he was 40 whatever years of age. You know, go left hand drive, totally different way of driving to an Escort or to the World Car, and to him up against like Craig Green, Alistair Fisher, you know, all these boys, Sam Moffat, John, you know, Callum Devine, all these lads who are unbelievable drivers and lots of time in those cars. And you remember we went to Galway and got a relay opener in Galway, and you know, and then he started to get more time in the car. I got sick that year myself. We went to West Cork and unfortunately crashed in the first stage. There was running water down a 5 left in the first stage, and we went back in again just on Rally 2, trying to get a bit of time in the car. And then Rory, I was sick then, and Rory Kennedy sat on in a few rallies, and then he went down to Killarney, and he, you know, some of his times, like he was matching some of the boys in some stages, but then getting well beaten some stages. But all the time getting more used to the car. And then Donegal, then like I remember in the Friday, it was one of the stages, like Alistair beat us by maybe 1 or 2 seconds on some of the stages. You know, it's a real high level to like Alistair Fisher is one of the best rally drivers in Ireland. So
that's for sure.
And the British Isles even. So no, he was really getting the grips with the car, you know. But
we all know what happened next. So unfortunately, you know, it just went off, and tragically Manus, you know, lost his life. But like, you know, what followed after that, it's, you know, it took rallying, you know, to a wider audience. The outpouring of grief that happened, it was unbelievable, wasn't it? It just showed you that, you know, how much this man was respected beyond rallying. Like, this was national news. It was, you know, it was everywhere.
Yeah, I suppose first of all, like in my head, Manus should never have died, Kevin. You know, we were in far worse accidents, and it was just a pure freak that poor Manus died. And I suppose, you know, Manus was unbelievably popular, but I don't think he realized how popular he was. You know, to a lot of people, Manus was this, you know, superstar rally driver, but to Manus was Manus, you know. And you know, when you'd be traveling the country and the amount of people coming to talk to him and photographs and that, but you know, he always time for everybody, and you know, that big happy smile of his, and
nearly always knew everybody by the name as well, didn't he? Like, you know,
unbelievable. You know, he really was unbelievable. And if he didn't know the name, he'd say, "How's it going, sir?" And you know, as if he knew you. He would have known them, but maybe not the first name, but would have made it feel like he knew them all their lives, or they knew him, you know. And yeah, sure, the what happened in those days afterwards was unbelievable. I don't think it's ever been seen in Donegal before, and I can't see it happening again. You
know? No, like, you know, it was, you know, it was, you know, it was so emotional. It was everything. You know, this was the man who would have made a great politician, as you say. Like, he knew everybody, and the people he didn't know, they felt they knew him. He just had this aura about him that he just, you come away from talking from, and you felt good. You'd spoke to Manus Kelly, you know, whatever it was about him, he had that.
And it was great crack. Like, I would speak to him at least once a day, sometimes twice, and you always come off the phone smiling when you're talking to Manus. And yes, it's hard to believe, Kevin, sure, when we started rallying, you know, I think like all competitors, you think the worst thing will happen. Obviously, we know it's dangerous, but you might break your leg or something. But Jesus, if you ever thought that the likes of that would happen, sure, you know, you definitely think twice about it. You know? But yeah, no, that outpouring of grief was unbelievable, really, and a testimony to the individual Manus was.
And the way
hard to believe 2 years now. Next week, it's so hard to believe.
And the way everybody pulled together, you know, the local football team, you know, the motor club, every aspect that Manus was involved in, you know, between, you know, organising buses, you know, to organising the crowd, everything. Like, everything just happened so simply, so easily. And again, everybody done it because of Manus.
Great community. Glenswilly is a great community. Would be rivals in GA, Milford and Glenswilly, but a great community in Glenswilly. And but I suppose, you know, like at the end of the day, Manus Kelly was as straight as a die. Like, you know, Manus, all the time I knew Manus from London too. If he couldn't do you a good turn, he wouldn't do you a bad turn. You know, he wouldn't do you a turn at all. It was either a good one or nothing. And he sadly missed.
Yeah, for sure. So, Donald, all I can do is thank you very much for taking the time to join us. It's been a pleasure. Just reliving the stories there, because to have that, the 2 year names is on. You've won the rally 3 times, 4 times you including the national. That's going to go down in the history books. It's just a fantastic piece of the Donegal Rally history.
Yeah, no, listen, I was very fortunate to be friends with an unbelievable rally driver. I always said that, the easy jobs to be a navigator was funny. We won Donegal to do that sports awards every year, and after we won the second one, we won the overall Donegal Sports Award. And my brother was slagging me, said, "Donald, you can always tell your kids that you won a Donegal Sports Award for reading." So I was fortunate to be very good friends with an unbelievable rally driver, and that's really why I have the Donegals that I have. But very proud of them, and we'll cherish them.
That's for sure. All right, well, take care, and we'll catch up with you soon.
All right, Kim.
Now, I'm absolutely delighted to welcome along 6-time winner Andrew Nesbitt. Andrew, you're very welcome.
Good afternoon, Kevin. It's a pleasure once again to be speaking to you on air. And yes, 1 week away from the Donegal Rally weekend. It's next Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And unfortunately, with the pandemic, it's not going to be happening this year. But I've no doubt a lot of the old rally drivers and young rally drivers, for that matter, will all appear in Glen Village, hopefully on the Saturday. I think there's a bit of a reunion there for John Lyons, the man that won Donegal twice, and it's 40 years since he first won it. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, and what a man John Lyons is. He's a legend of a man, and then he's a rally driver as well.
He's a fantastic person, fantastic driver. I actually call him Dr. Lyons, because when I had the accident back in 96, he came into out in the Galvin Hospital, and the only way he could get in, because I was in a very private ward and under quite strong medical, in medical terms, I had to be looked after very well. And who came through the door at 10:10 at night? Only this man with a white coat and a clipboard with him. And he turns around to the nurse and he says, "Nurse, thank you very much. I will look after my patient from here." And who was it? Only John Lyons. It was the only way he could get in to see me. He pretended to be the doctor in charge that night, and it was so funny. He gave me such a laugh, and I needed the laugh, I can tell you. It was so funny.
And only him could have done it. So, Andrew, I suppose, what is your early memories of competing in Donegal? Was it the escort back in 88? Was it been the first time you competed?
88, yeah. We actually, I got married in 85, and in 88, I bought Langley Humphrey's Mark II Escort, and Brian Murphy and I set off in Donegal to do the rally. Langley was selling the car because he had got married, and I was buying the rally car because I just got married. So it was two opposites, but it was for me it was a dream come true to be able to buy that car. It was a mint car, and we competed in Donegal for a few years with it, and we did very well actually. I think we finished in the top 10 the first run out in it, and the second year we were 6th overall. 6th overall, yeah. With Brian Murphy in the navigating seat. We really enjoyed that car.
Yeah, and that second year was the year that I think people started to notice this driver, Andrew Nesbitt. You were there in that top 10 nearly the whole weekend. So this name was a new name on the scene, but it was there to stay, I suppose.
Well, before that, we hadn't really got much rally experience, as you know. And coming from South Armagh, we got plenty of experience running pigs back and forward across the border and at high speeds. So I suppose I had learned to drive from an early age, but to try and get it under control and put it into rally terms between 2 points, A to B, as fast as we could, and also to learn pace notes at the time was all a newfangled to all of us. But Brian Murphy did a great job at the time, and yes, the car was brilliant, and the spectators equally were brilliant in Donegal, as they always are. It is my favourite county to go rallying, and the crowds come out in their tens of thousands. In fact, I think over a rally weekend you could have upwards of 140 or 50,000 people spectating. And you know what? I really miss that now. I'd love to get back onto some of those stages where you come down into particularly the hairpin at the bottom of Knockalla there, and there's usually thousands of people in a field there.
Mm-hmm.
The story goes that the farmer charges them €1 in to get in, so that farm of land's worth a lot of money.
Yeah. Without a doubt. And that it's just a very special buzz the whole weekend. It's more than a rally. It's almost a carnival atmosphere for the weekend, isn't there?
It's a carnival atmosphere for everyone, I would say, except the drivers and navigators, because we have to take it very seriously. And people think you just turn up and you drive a rally car. It's much more than that. You have to train very hard before any event, and then to do the pace notes. But particularly for me, I'd been coming from the tug of war world, as you know, and into motorsport. So I was reasonably fit, having competed over the world with Northern Ireland. And you had to keep that level of fitness up for the rally car, because you could lose easily 1.5 to 2 stone of fluid in a real tough weekend battle.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be very honest with you, I would drink 4 or 5 gallons of water, fluid rather than water. It would be a combination of vitamins, what have you, on any rally weekend. And you go through 2 or 3 rally suits just to keep the thing under control. But yeah, it's an amazing rally. It's an amazing challenge. And while it's an atmosphere for all the spectators, and they really do miss it. I do know, having spoken to so many people over the last number of weeks since we got back out a little bit, that they're missing it terribly.
Mm-hmm.
And we really do need to get the Donegal Rally up and running again and get that carnival atmosphere going. Especially, no one's leaving Ireland this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I would encourage everyone to go and look at the Wild Atlantic Way and go round all of the rally stages. Those who are really rally enthusiasts, they should go and have a look at the stages from Inishowen, Fannet Head, Knockalla,
mm-hmm.
Kindrum Lake, Atlantic Drive, to mention but a few.
Yeah.
And it even takes me back to Hornhead.
Yeah.
I was driving around Hornhead only 2 weekends ago, and it was, the hairs were standing on my arm, thinking of the time that Brian Murphy and I competed, and we were catching Stevie Emerson in the green Opel 400 Manta. We were driving a 6R4 Metro,
mm-hmm.
and we were catching him and coming right up to him, and little did I know he was just after breaking his arm. He had hit a rock
right.
On one of the hairpins back in the stage,
mm-hmm.
and literally, broke a proper break and fainted at the end of the stage. But what a stage! That I've only ever done that stage twice. Once was in a Mark II Escort, and then later in the 6R4 Metro. And it's one of those stages I'd love to see up and running again.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand why they cannot run the stage, because there's very little access into it. But my goodness, what a challenge of a stage, particularly going clockwise. You're coming over the top. The Atlantic's on your left. If you slid into the Atlantic,
mm-hmm.
next stop would be New York. There's drops in there that you just you don't want to be leaving the tarmac. I can assure you.
That's for sure.
But yeah, all of those beautiful stages. And now that we have more time on our hands, I would really encourage people to stay at home this year and give as much to the Irish Tourism Board and to the people of Donegal and to the bed and breakfast and the hotels and Arnold's and
mm-hmm.
the Shannon Hotel and all of those hotels that are around the area. I would encourage people to go.
And the restaurants, everything there, they're all
cafes, restaurants.
mm-hmm.
Everyone needs a turn now, and I would be strongly advising. There's no better place to go
mm-hmm.
and enjoy the summer than Ireland, particularly Donegal and the Wild Atlantic Way. So that's my message to everyone from that part of the world.
Can't argue with that. So, we'll skip forward a few years. You had your started off in the Escort and into a Manta, the 6R4s, and then BMW. Then you went big time then the Group A Celica. This was you announcing that you were here. I'm coming here to compete. I'm not coming to compete. I'm here to win. And 96, it all come together really well for you. You're having a massive battle with Bertie and James Cullen all in the mix. But by Saturday evening, it was yours for the taking.
Well, it was, but you know, there was no excuses. Once you got a works car, and that was a Toyota Celica, Gene Megan and I went over to Germany and we bought 2 cars. He bought one, I bought the other. And once we had that equipment, there was no reason why we couldn't compete, certainly within the, you know, the top 3 to 5 positions. Now, I never knew what position we'd finish up in, but we definitely had the car to do the job. And while all of the other cars were very fast, the Metro was a very fast car. In fact, 2 of them. One was that fast that it finished up at the top of the 4 trees, you know. But but you know, that's another story for another day. That's for Glen Village, I think. But yeah, once you get works cars, that'd be Subarus, Toyotas, Mitsubishis, Fords. It's down to the driver, the navigator, and the team. And we certainly very thankful that Richard Krieg in Toyota Germany allowed us to have a full works car. And that car was just amazing. And a friend of mine out in Market Hill owns it now. And it's one of the very few cars that won a round of the World Championships. But that was the standard of those cars. And every car after that, they were all works cars that we were driving.
Yes.
So it was down to us to do a good pace note session and be fit for the job. And, you know, there was a lot of training put into it, a lot of effort, particularly from, you know, you couldn't do any of this without your sponsors, of course. And I was very lucky to have the Cuisine de France team come on board when I needed financial support. Don't underestimate the amount of money that's spent winning a rally, that'd be Donegal or any other rally. It's quite a commitment from your sponsors to get you into that position. So I thank them all for that, particularly Ronan McNamee, who himself was a world rally navigator for Pentiaricula. He did a very high level, so he encouraged me a lot to get into the best car, the best team, and go and win rallies, and that's what we did.
Yeah, and you know, you won Donegal 6 times. I'm sure you'll admit yourself you could have won it more, but 6 times is still such an achievement. You know, it's unbelievable. Like, did you ever imagine it?
Well, sometimes I have to pinch myself when people say you won it 6 times, but yeah, there was 2 or 3 other times, maybe 4. We were leading the event and run out of talent. So, you know, that's the way life is. And but you know, motorsport's a great sport, and you have to learn to take the highs with the lows, and that's what it is. Any sport, every sport's the same. Should it be rugby or football or Gaelic? You know, there's always someone has to win, someone has to lose, and fortunately for me and James O'Brien, we won Donegal 6 times, which was amazing.
And like, as well as, you know, the friendships that you built up over them years too, like, you know, I'm sure every one of them guys you competed against, you can still go now and meet up and have a yarn with and a pint with, and it's still, you know, you can retell the stories now at this stage.
Oh, well, we're telling stories every day, you know. Look, when I look back and all of the drivers, and I know I can't name them all, but you know, Os McHale, Bertie Fisher, James Cullen, Derek McGarty, Eugene Donnelly, all of these guys were fantastic pilots. But believe you me, when we were at the stage start, it was war. It was all about winning and how to take the opposition out. And you can only do that by having the best technology, best tires, best pace notes. And, you know, you still have to keep it on the tar. And someone has to win. And fortunately for us, we had a great run of luck in Donegal. But we had our ups and downs as well, as you know.
Of course, yeah. It's like, as you say, it's like everything, you know, you have good days and you have bad days. And thankfully, you had more good days than bad.
That's right. But friendship, you mentioned that, and I have to come back to that. The people of Donegal have been my friend and our family's friends for years. They are such nice people. And, you know, I can't express how much I love going to Donegal. I'm doing a lot of work in England at the moment. As soon as I get off that plane, the car turns automatically for Donegal. I just love being there because I always get such a warm welcome from everyone, particularly those people who are in the sport that know it really well. And, you know, I'm coming back to the early days when we started winning. I remember getting a phone call from Kieran Larkin one night. He says, Andrew, we would like you and your family to come back down here in a couple of weeks' time. We're throwing a party for you. I said, but we've won the Donegal. We don't have a party after Donegal. He says, no, it's something we would like to consider doing to thank you for all the support you give the county and the people of Donegal. And lo and behold, those parties lasted several nights and several days on several occasions. And that was one of the highlights. And not to forget Rory Kennedy in the middle of it all, Kieran Larkin, and all those guys are, it's been a fantastic time with all of them, and Tony Kelly as well, and James Cullen. So there you go. You win the rally and they say, right, come back for a party. But thanks to them, without them, I wouldn't have been in this position. And quite often when you're in the heat of battle, you have to go to a quiet place to, first of all, get your rest and get your sleep. And Kieran Larkin and his family used to put me away and wherever I need to be just to get the silence and ready for the next day. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And as you're alluding to there, yes, you're behind the wheel, you're controlling that side of it, but that whole team behind you allowed you to fully focus on what was going on. You didn't have to worry about anything else at that particular time. It was you and James in the car, giving it your maximum. You had a good team, good service crew, good car below you. The tyres was right, everything was right. That just allowed you to perform at your best.
Absolutely. You look at we had 25 people in our team, and that was from weather notes to tyre fitters to engineers to suspension engineers and gearbox engineers. And it was a massive team actually, but it was a very professional setup, and it was Bertie Fisher that actually taught me how to do that, because he had a very professional setup, and it was very easy for me to learn from that and build on it. And then when we got the support of Cuisine de France and the financial support of Subaru Ireland and Neville Matthews in Dublin at the time, it was, you had to just focus on doing a job because you knew you had the best team around you. And more importantly, everybody was very relaxed about it. And the more relaxed the team around you are, the more relaxed the driver feels it. You sense that. And so everyone's in control. And that's what really makes a winning team. And I would never have won Donegal ever without the winning team behind me and family, of course.
And, we all focus on the Subarus and all, but the big coup was in 2006, bringing the Mitsubishi World Team. This wasn't a satellite team or, a kind of a half-hearted attempt. This was the full bells and whistles world cars. It was seeming the exact same spec of car that was appearing on the world stage was coming to Donegal, and there was two of them coming. What a treat!
There was two of them coming. There was two of them arriving, and one was driven by Mark Higgins, who was the British champion, and one was driven by Andrew Nesbitt, the Irish champion a few years earlier. And we organised that in such a way that we had to get the sponsorship package surely together for it. But when everything came together, it was such a ding-dong of a battle. And I knew that I had my work cut out for me on two fronts. One, I was older. I was 46 at the time. And young Mark Higgins was there, who was a full-time works driver. And Rory Kennedy sitting beside him. So he knew the roads very well. And I had James O'Brien. And we went into battle. But I remember the first Friday, we were both pacing ourselves because we knew what we had. The car we had was the fastest in the field, but we had to learn how to handle it. And when I say that, normally you come up to a corner and you set the car up and you give her the boot. This thing here, you give her the boot, she take you straight through the hedge. The power in it was just amazing. And, I loved it actually because, it's like riding a wild bull. It took time to tame it. And once we got it tamed down, particularly the suspension department, and I think from memory, and I think if Mark Higgins was with us here, he'd say the same. His suspension setup was a little bit slightly different to mine. And that's what won the day for us.
Okay.
But hats off to Mark Higgins and Rory Kennedy. They put up a serious battle, and I always knew I had my work cut out because I'd raced against Mark a few occasions before it, and to be honest with you, I could never beat him. I couldn't get to him, but I knew if I had the same equipment, there was no reason why we couldn't at least put it up to him. And after the Friday, I remember coming into, I think it was High Glen, through the village, down past the pub, and I knew if we could get 10 or 12 seconds on him in there, it would maybe give him a bit of a shake, because that stage was always special to us. And I remember Rory Kennedy saying to me, "You did it again, Nesbitt." Those stages, particularly that one, was where we would either set the pace for the Saturday, and if you were fast enough in there, you stood a good chance of winning the rally.
And like Glen was always special for you. Like, was there like a special trick to it, or was it just full commitment, or what just made it click for you?
Well, you know what? I'm sitting here and I'm going through the stage in my mind, and I always remember, when you get up to the top, before you start the descent down to the village, there was 2 corners away back at the top, and we discovered there was a line through it, but you had to set the car up slightly sideways before you got to the corner, because there was another corner coming after it, and we were fit to take that somewhere between 128 and 132 mile an hour sideways. And I think that's what gave us the edge coming down into the village. Because if you back off in some of those corners, you could easily lose 3 or 4 seconds, maybe 5. And I think that's where we made the time up, coming down through that section. And then there's a left-hander after the mountain before you get to the village. And, I remember saying to James, "I'm not going to change down here this time." So we kept it in 6th gear. We were fit to take it not flat, but that probably made us another 3 or 4 seconds. So that's where I feel the time was made on that particular stage. But I loved it. But there again, I loved all of the stages in Donegal.
Yes.
They were all challenging, and they all had their own little tweaks to them.
Yes. And you said that Donegal's so specialty. Like, it proves that whenever you've got a holiday home. You started off with a mobile home, moved on, now you've got a holiday home there. Is it somewhere you could see yourself whenever the time comes to hang up the boots, that you would love to come down and live in Donegal all the time?
I can share with you now that we try to get there every second weekend as it is. And I'm planning to go down hopefully next weekend, and I'll stay for a week, because I know there'll be a little bit of partying after John Lenn's party, and we want to take the week down there. But yes, all of my family and I just love being there, and probably I would see myself spending at least half a year there if I could get to the point of retirement.
And
that's the plan.
Is there one memory from the Donegal Rally that stands out for you over and above everything else?
Oh, well, let me say to you, every win has been special, but to go into a prize giving, arriving at the winning ramp in Donegal is so special. It is so special. But to get there, you have to drive very hard. And so the one memory I have which stands out for me was when the rain came in on Knockalla, and we were on slicks, and Eugene Donnelly was on intermediates. And to be honest with you, James, we tried to get the stage stopped because we thought it was too dangerous. The water was coming down the stage. And James says, "There's no stopping in this stage, Andrew. We're going to have to drive this in slicks." So I got out with the Stanley knife, and I cut lovely wedges out of the tires. And we delayed the stage 15 minutes, which was just long enough for me to get the tires cut into like an intermediate pattern with a little Stanley knife. And we took off anyway, and we slid around a couple of corners, including Will Herr's Bend, which I got round on this occasion with slicks in the wet. And lo and behold, we were 23 or 25 seconds faster than Eugene. So that stage really stands out for me. And that was just the commitment, the tyre technology, the grip of the Donegal road. And I've always said to myself, you know what? Slicks is good for Donegal, even in the wet. I'm happy to do it. So that stage really stood out for me. Because I remember going over the top, and there's two corners at the very top of Knockalla. There's a left and a right over a blind crest. We never come out of it yet. We were doing over 130 mile an hour on slicks. And that's what made the difference. So that stands out for me, big time.
Yes. So, Andrew, thank you very much for taking the time. It's been fascinating, as always. I just love spending time with you. The stories and the reminiscences are just a joy to listen to.
Well, thank you so much for having me on, Kevin. But I want to say to everyone, this year in particular, the Irish Tourist Board need you on board. Stay at home and enjoy yourselves, because we've plenty of good scenery and company to be had, particularly in Donegal. So look forward to seeing you there.
I was absolutely delighted now to welcome along Vincent Bonner. Vincent, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much, Kevin.
It's a pleasure, as always, to speak to you. So, Vincent, I suppose, like, you were there at the inception of the Donegal Rally, the Rally of the Rosses. You competed in that as well, didn't you? Right at the very beginning.
That was the beginning of my career. I probably would have started rallying only for the Rally of the Rosses. I knew absolutely nothing about rallying. And the next thing, we have a festival here, the Mary from Dunlow Festival here in Dunlow. It runs every year, and that was the start of the Mary from Dunlow Festival back then. And the committee, there was you probably heard about Fonzie McElwee that was involved in the rally all down through the years. Well, his uncle lived in Dunlow here. He was a chemist.
Okay.
And he got Fonzie, chatting to him, and they got talking, and they says, maybe we would try a special stage rally, during the festival. And that was the beginning of it.
Right.
Definitely was.
Yeah. And you being a young lad hanging about the town, had to be part of this?
No question about it. Once trying to do it fast cars, I had to be part of it as right. And I remember I bought a money away down in Athlone, and that was just a standard money. And I went and just got it all prepared for the rally and whatnot. And I think it was maybe the evening before the rally started, or maybe the previous evening, the engine gave bothering it. And there was a man up in Cash and Pettigo up there, and he specialised in minis and whatnot. And
Mervyn
Johnson. He was coming down. Mervyn Johnson is right, and he was coming down to do the rally. Yes. And I got in touch with him and told him about the problem I had and whatnot. And thank God he came down anyway. Maybe that he was coming down to scrutiny, and he rebuilt the engine, and we went from there. Then that's right. Yeah. And
Mervyn's still going strong up there yet. So
he is indeed. He is indeed. Way back, maybe. I think it was in 2011 was the last time I met him. Okay. He was doing the historics, and he was out at the the launch of the rally out in Kelly's Toyota out in Letterkenny. And I hadn't seen him for years and years before that, but met him that night, and him and Cathal Curley were there,
Yes, some right wise chat.
Oh, who are you telling? Oh, we went back a long time. That's for sure. That's for sure.
Yeah. And even in them early years, the rally soon established itself as one of the best rallies in Ireland, and beyond. It was become around the European Championship. It was voted Ford Personality of the month. I think that was 74. Wasn't that phenomenal for such a young rally to be rising up through the ranks so quickly?
It was unbelievable, Kevin. I'm telling you now, it just took off. It was like a wildfire. It just completely took off once it started. After the run, I think they had 160 competitors here in Dunlow at the very first Rosses, the Rally of the Rosses. And the next year, then they took it to Letterkenny or to
Downing.
Down to Downing. I was going to say that, and it was unbelievable. It just took off from there. Off from there. I'm telling you now, it was unbelievable. And see, even the local boys, the like of the Curleys and Adrian Boyds and all that, top class machinery,
Yes.
I mean, I remember Adrian Boyd, he was driving for Ari Hamilton, and he landed with a works car from Ford.
Right.
You know, it was really special stuff. And then they kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and the next thing then that award came up, and I think that year Wamble came. And I think he won it that year.
Yes.
For that ERC, and the club got the honour for the ERC. And I remember we used to use this. I don't think they ever used it since, but they used a stage called Guibara Bay, and it was white line stuff. Now this was the main road, you know, and you would need to see the stage. You know, it was an unbelievable stage, and Curly was giving him his fun of it. Now, to be honest with you, in the Porsche. And he just made one mistake and he hit the back corner wheel, and he got out of the stage, but then he retired in on the road section going to the next stage.
Yes.
Cal was some boy in his day, I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah, and still is.
Aye, and that's for sure. And
during this time, you were developing your machinery. You know, you moved from your Mini into BMs and then Vauxhall Forenzas and all, like a real good class machinery in them days too.
Definitely, I remember when I bought the BM of Derek McMahon, and I remember on the eve of the rally too. That same year, we lost. I sent the car away because it was the stages were around where I live myself, you know, and I wanted to put in a bit of an effort. And we sent the car over to London to a crowd called Auto Extra. They specialised in BMs at the time, and they'd done it from front to back, and the car came back and to get out for a test run. The next thing, it lost the oil pressure. And this was maybe 3 or 4 days before the rally. So I got on to them and whatnot. And he says, well, leave it with us. And he rang me back. And the next thing he says to me, well, we're thinking about coming over and doing something for you. And I said, that's grand. And he says, would there be a place, he says, if we could land a small plane? And I says, right. And I tried to think for a while then. And there's a place down maybe about 8 or 10 miles from me, you know, some kind of there's a big golf course on it there now, you know. But it was a kind of a flat, grassy place. And I explained this to him, and he says, we'll go for that. And I remember being down there when the plane landed, and they came over and they worked all through the night and everything and rebuilt the engine for the rally.
And like, you know, this was in the mid-70s, like there wasn't too many planes flying about Donegal. It must have been like a spacecraft nearly landing at that stage.
No question about it. It was completely out of the ordinary, Kevin. It definitely was. It was just one of those things. What did I tell you, when I rang him, I never thought for a minute that he was going to say that to me, you know. But that's the way the rally went.
And like, you know, you mentioned Ackerman, Warrenball there. Like Vatanen was over in them early years. You know, this rally was attracting top class quality entries from across Europe. You know, wasn't it brilliant?
And what did I tell you now? I think that they developed the metro, and the next thing they took it to Donegal to see what it was going to be like.
That's right. That's the that's right.
That's the kind of a rally that it turned out to be. You know. Because
Malcolm Wilson brought the Quattro here before that, and
that's right.
The amount of cars that come to Donegal to be a proving ground for them, you know. So
that's right. He came in '84. That's because I remember that. You know, we won the rally in '83, and then it was always the thing. Whoever won the rally started number one, but because he was a seated driver, then you know he came that year, and we were right behind him.
So I like we you know, you mentioned '83 there, like, you know, boyhood dream stuff. This winning your own like local rally, it must have been a dream come true for yourself and Seamus.
Well, you know, when you're young and that, and I've done a fair bit of rallying and up till '83, you know what I mean, and didn't even realise, you know, what this was going to be when you know when I won the rally, you know. And it's only in the years that followed afterwards that when you look back how hard rallies are to win, you know. And it was an unbelievable achievement for me to win it, you know. That, and I'm not just boasting about that, but it was, you know, for somebody, you know, of, you know, my means and whatnot to win the Donegal rally. When you see the like of, I mean, Roger Clark, the late Roger Clark, he came to Donegal, but he didn't get started because the car gave trouble, you know. And then you talk about the Tony Ponds, the late Tony Pond, and then you talk about the Colin McRae's and everything else. And to say that you're in a lot of that kind of, you know,
the caliber of driver,
that's what I mean, you know. It's only when you get older and you look back at all that and you say, God, it was a good achievement to do it, you know.
And then, you know, as well as that, you know, like I spoke to numerous older people now this last few weeks now to build up for this program, and you know, the one name that keeps coming up is Vincent Bonner. Like he inspired me. I watched that in '83. I was standing on the side of the road in Letterkenny. You know, you've inspired another generation of drivers coming up through there, Donegal crews. Like that's some accolade to put on your shoulders too, isn't it?
Well, you know, I'm very, very proud of that, to be quite honest with you, you know. And see, you know, it'll never happen in my lifetime again anyway, to see what Letterkenny was, you know, the finishing stage in Letterkenny.
Yes.
That was, see, when I sit down and look at it now, look at the videos and that, I mean, it was something else, you know. Everybody's just standing on the edge of the pavement, you know, and you're coming down in a Mark 2 Escort and just filling the road and whatnot, you know what I mean? And it's, you know, and they'll talk about safety and whatnot, you know, but it was out of this world. It was definitely out of this world. It was
you know, the crowds, the noise, everything. That was just, you know, that's what rallying was really all about in them days, wasn't it? Like it was just.
Oh, it was something else. I mean, that's what kept it going. That's what. I mean, I talked to numerous people since, you know, elderly people, and they say to me, "I was standing there, I was standing there." You know what I mean? You know, and it was something else, you know.
Yeah, for sure. And like you come back then numerous times, tried to, you know, achieve it again, come close a few times, but just never could get it, you know, together again. But like some great battles over the years with the likes of Bertie and, you know, James Cullen, Austin McHale, you know, Billy Coleman, all them guys. Like, you know, that must have been like for a guy that was only doing 2 or 3 rallies a year, it must have been brilliant for you from your point of view to be, you know, competing at that level with names like that.
It was unbelievable, you know. I mean, it was only then that you sat down and you look back and you say to yourself, you know, that was some achievement to do it, because you see, maybe them years you're talking about afterwards and that, I might have put in twice the effort.
Yes.
But some wee thing would happen, you know, and just, I mean, I remember, you know, we had 2 stages to go and we're there, and when we lost 19 seconds on one stage and we got it back to 8, and the next thing the rotor arm went, and you know, see them kind of things, you need a terrible little luck to get it together and get round, you know, you definitely do.
Yeah, I like that. That was 1990. Like that is going to go down as one of those iconic years in Donegal, isn't it? Yourself, Bertie, and Austin McHale, and like it was. I think there was 12 seconds at most in it at one point, and you know, it toed and froed. You led, Bertie led, Austin led, and back and forth at one. And like you went out with the rotor arm with 2 stages to go, and then Bertie picked up a 10-second penalty. And out through all this, Austin McHale won it by 9 seconds. That was
unbelievable rally. That was definitely an unbelievable rally. You know, I would say I got more recognition for that one.
Yes.
Or as much as I got for winning it, because the 2 cars that I was competing against was coming into another era again, was leaving the man to behind, and to be able to stay with them, you know, was, you know. It was you know, a big achievement to do that as well.
Because they were cutting edge, where the man at that stage was, you know, 5-6 years out of date almost at that stage, you know. So that was
you know, they were talking at that time that they were going 300 brake with them BMW M3s, and we were back at 280, 270 or something like that with the Mantas, you know. You know, but again, against that, the Manta would have handled better than the BM.
Okay. Right.
You know, so maybe that's probably where, you know, it evened out, you know.
Either some stages you had the advantage to handling, played to your advantage, you know, and then the power played to their advantage in other stages and whatever.
That's right, because I remember Plum, he had Jimmy McRae, he was in the rally, and the next thing, he took him out to one of the stages and they were talking, you know, before the cars came and everything else, and he just, you know, Plum was asking him, you know, what did he think, you know, between the 2 BMs and the Manta, and he says, see the bumpier the stage is, he says, the Manta, he says, will be ahead of it. And it's funny, that's the way it worked out, you know.
McRae was a real wily folks. He took in everything, didn't he?
No question about it. Oh, he knew. He went through it from front to back. You know, he thought the whole thing out, definitely. Definitely.
So then you stepped away from the sport for a few years, took up golf of all things, but you get tempted back in 2011 for one last hula. Yourself and Seamus reformed the band.
That's correct. Yeah, that's right. But I think the rally was 40 years that year, and the club, you know, they wanted to, you know, try and do something, you know, maybe just to honour the 40 years. And they came together and they asked myself and Seamus, would we go back and do a thing? And I said, I wouldn't have went near a rally for 25 years, or 20 years anyway.
Yes.
And they came to me and they says, would you be interested in going back? I says, not a chance, not a hope. I wouldn't be able to drive a car like that now. And they kept harping away at me and harping away at me. And anyway, they got a deal together and they got a car and we went out and we done it and enjoyed every minute of it too. That's for sure. Every minute. Yeah.
Yeah. And now John, your son's competing and all too. So you know, the tradition has moved on to the next generation. I'm saying you're very proud of John's achievements as well.
Oh, very much so, you know, because it's all right. I mean, I was a young fella when I started, but John was later in life. And, you know, see, once you get older, you know, you get wiser and you just wouldn't have, you know, you wouldn't have the I can't think of the word for it now anyway, but you wouldn't be as daring, as you would be when you were younger, you know. Yes. But he started late in life, and I'll tell you, he has some great achievements, you know, up to now. Yeah, definitely had.
For sure. Yeah. And then, you know, the club then asked you and yourself and Seamus again to be club presidents. Like, what an honour for, you know, that's, you know, for the young guy starting out in Dunlow all those years ago to become president of the Donegal Motor Club. I would say that's something you're very proud of.
Oh, well, I'll tell you now, probably wouldn't become president at all, only for the chairman, Brian Brogan. He rang me one night and he asked me, you know, I think it might have been away at a rally or something when he rang me, and he says to me, would you be interested, he says, in becoming president of the Donegal Motor Club? And I says to him, oh my God, now you need to stop. This is, you're way out of my league now. Not at all. I says, no, I'm just an ordinary man about the street and wouldn't be interested in anything like that. And he says, no, what are you going to do? I'm going to leave it with you, and I want you to think about it. And he came back to me maybe about a week later and he says, did you think about that? And I says, I did. And he says, well, what do you think? And I says, I'm not going to rule it out. I says, you know, the club was very good to me down through the whole years. And I says, it would be a great honour for me and society to do it. And I says, would it be any interest in society? Would Seamus not come on board as well? And we'll do it jointly. Because to say, you know, he was in the car the same day as I was in the car the day we won it.
Yes.
And he says, I never thought about it like that, he says, I think that would be a very, very good thing to happen, he says. Yes. And I says, well, see if you get him to go on board, to say we'll do it together. And that's how it ended up, Kevin.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm very, very proud to be president of the club. You know, joint president. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, you know, we're missing out in the rally now with the COVID and all that. But, you know, all been well, we'll get back on the stages next year and we're going to go big and celebrate the 50th anniversary of the event next year. Like, you'll be there, hopefully, you know, with your, you know, the president's hat on. I would say you're very much looking forward to welcoming everybody back then next year.
No question about it. It'll not come half quick enough till we get rid of this siege that we had this last 2 years. Definitely, and you know, hopefully my health and everything will be grand. I'll certainly be there. No question about it. Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely.
Thinking back over this past, you know, 50 years now at this stage, is there a highlight that has stood out for you in all that time? Is there one memory that you would just love to you look back and that's the one that stands out above all the others?
I suppose, you know, if you'd asked me, I would say 2 years after I won the Donegal Rally, I would say, no, I don't really know. But see, you know, every time that you go out to a driver's briefing or something like that, they do the same video nearly every year, you know, and they show you coming round the corner at Crossview House in Letterkenny.
Yes.
That'll never leave me mind. Definitely not. That definitely, I would have to say, that was one of the highlights of my whole rallying career. The day that I came round there and McGettigan with the fist out the window. So definitely, Kevin.
Yeah. So Vincent, we'll wrap it up at that. And this, you know, this weekend has been put together, chatting to so many drivers and so many, you know, organisers and all that. And you know, it's been a pleasure for me. But I'd like to leave the last word to you. Is there anything you'd like to say to the, you know, all the members of the motor club, all the competitors out there?
I'll tell you now, you know, there's a lot of things goes on behind the scene. The like of Eamon McGee and the James Collins and the Clerk of the courses all down through the years and everything else. And, you know, people don't realise the amount of work that those people put in behind the scenes. And you couldn't give them enough credit. And it's all voluntary. And, you know, even the chairman and everything else, he's up and down to Dublin to meetings, and he's down to different rallies and all that. You know, those kind of people, you know, you can never forget them kind of people, because all this, what we're doing tonight, would never have taken place only for those people. And I would like to, you know, praise those people.
Yes. Well, that's as nice a place to leave it as any. So, Vincent, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking to you as always.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Anytime. You know where I am. Thank you. No bother. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.